I know what you'll say. I'm crazy. I guess that would make perfect sense, you know? I'm not, though. We are in love. Why can't you just accept that? Oh yeah, you're highly religious, and I'm going to burn in hell because of the one I love. Is that it? You can just fuck off with your judgmental bullshit! I'm sorry, that wasn't very nice, was it? I think once I explain it all to you, you will understand completely, and then we will move on with our lives and things will work out. Would you like to know how we first met? We should start there. It was just wonderful. My first day of high school. I remember how great it was. I was so nervous about everything. I remember opening my locker and grabbing my books for psych class. Someone knocked on my locker, and when I shut it, she was there. What's up, neighbor? I'll admit, I was thrown by this for a moment. Hi? I said. Oh, sorry. My name is Veronica. The neighbor bit was because we're locker neighbors. Shitty humor, I know, but I thought it was coolish. Maybe? I stared into her blue eyes for a moment. I was lost in them, though I didn't realize that at the time. Nah, it was cool. I was just a bit thrown. I'm Alice. Are you new here? I remember being drawn to her jeans, filled with tears and holes. They looked natural, though, not like those overpriced ones people waste money on all the time. Yo, you obsessed with my jeans or something, Alice? No, not at all. I'm a tad spaced. I just have the first day jitters, I guess. She eyeballed me up and down and then smiled. No problem. What class you got? Psych. You? The same. That's a bit strange, right? I remember Veronica laughing at this, and we were off to class. I remember the unusual comfort I felt talking to her and being around her. It's nice when you meet someone like that. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd be falling for her. Who could blame me? She had those blue eyes, that long black hair, mocha skin. She was about 2 inches taller than me. I always thought myself short at 5'7", but I guess that's not considered short. I'm getting sidetracked, though. Psych class was always interesting. We were at opposite sides of the room. I in the front row, her in the very back. Every time I looked back, though, she was there, smiling at me. It was reassuring. We sadly only had psych class together. At lunch, I'd go out and hang near the woods, chilling with Veronica, though. It was quiet, and for the most part, we wouldn't be bothered. Before meeting Veronica, I was always alone. That was my spot, where I'd sit and think, enjoying lunch to myself and my thoughts. Now, I had someone to share it with, someone who was super cool and who understood me. It's a shame we don't have more classes together, I told Veronica. She smiled at me. No worries. We can still hang. We'll survive this place together. I remember her winking after that. Then the bell went off, and it was back to class. Week after week went like that. We'd meet first thing in the morning, and then during lunch, we'd hang out. It wasn't a lot of time to spend, and yet I felt very close to her. You'd be surprised how well you can connect with someone, even when you only have a short time to spend with one another. It was around the beginning of October when I realized Veronica might mean a tad more to me than I initially thought. There's this guy Todd who'd always make extremely lewd comments towards me. He'd call me things like sweet cheeks and tell me how he loved the shy ones. They were usually the freaks in bed, he'd say. I would tell the prick to move on and stop bothering us. Every time, he'd smile and say the crazy ones are the best in bed, before walking away with a smug look on his face. The beginning of October, that changed. He'd recently been in an accident. He was wheelchair-bound and not near as smug. I felt bad for him in some ways, but Veronica didn't. She had an intense smile as he came by, paralyzed from the waist down, and he apologized to me. He said he was truly sorry for everything, and he hoped I'd forgive him. I wanted to tell him I had, but I remember Veronica telling him to fuck off. I remember his shocked look as he stared at me and then silently moved on. He was wheelchair-bound now, and I wish I could say I was upset, but it was nice having her stick up for me like that. Someone stuck up for me. Someone cared. You know what that is like? Yeah, it's pretty damn great. I was always that shy, weird kid. No one liked that, and now I had a true friend who liked me for me and wasn't afraid to stick up for me. Anyways, I think it was shortly after this incident that the dreams began. I had dreams of Todd, more like flashes, screaming because his brakes on his car weren't working. Then the semi hit him. I guess it was only strange because I remember feeling delighted about it all. I felt as though I was living it, like I was there with him when it happened. That's impossible, though. I was home, sleeping. These soon-to-be more persistent dreams always ended with Veronica in the distance, smiling. That smile was reassuring. I felt warm when I saw it. Psych class, the first day after Todd apologized and the first night after the dream, I noticed Veronica wasn't in class that day. At lunch, though, she showed up. "You okay there, Alice?" I guess my face had lit up a bit much. I remember feeling a tad embarrassed. "Yeah, I was just happy to see you. I thought maybe you were sick, seeing as you weren't in class this morning." She laughed. "Nah, I had an appointment, so I was late. Sorry about that." "Fucking bitch!" A voice had cut us off. I remember looking up at Beth, Todd's girlfriend, and feeling a bit shocked. "How could you say that to Todd?" Veronica quickly cut in. "Interrupt us again, you stupid whore, and you'll know exactly how Todd feels." I remember the sheer shock on Beth's face. She stared at me in disgust, and I remember her wanting to say something, but having no words. I remember her running off, crying. "You shouldn't let people push you around like that, Alice." I was shocked by what she'd said to Beth, but at the same time, I felt a rush and a warmth. Veronica smiled and grabbed my hand. "No worries. I've got your back, my friend." It was like she knew what I was thinking, and she always seemed to. That was the moment we became best friends. The moment I realized she truly had my back. A few days later, Beth was found in the bathroom, face cut open, scars too deep to ever be fixed again. People called her a freak. She had become the outcast. They said it was self-inflicted. She'd had a psychotic break, probably from all the pressure she carried trying to balance her straight A's and work, life, and other responsibilities. I'm not sure what happened to her after that. She was pulled out of school, and there were rumors she was committed. That night, though, I had another dream. I was standing there, whispering into Beth's ear. Except I wasn't, because there was no reflection. My voice was there, though, whispering into her ears, telling her she's worthless. She should destroy herself. She was a hideous piece of shit who should be as ugly on the outside as she was on the inside. I heard these things, but I didn't believe them. She smashed the mirror with her fists and began crying. Beth grabbed the glass and slowly began to cut. She made the scars deep. It matched her face now. I turned towards the exit of the bathroom and Veronica was there again, smiling. I remember feeling warm again. Some part of me was happy about Beth. Then I awoke. I heard the sound of a tapping at my window. It was the sound of rocks. Veronica was outside, smiling at me. I remember thinking her smile was lovely. It was warm. I snuck downstairs and went outside. "What are you doing here?" I said, shocked, but it was clear from my smiling I was happy. "What else? I wanted to drop in like a creeper on my best friend. Isn't that sort of thing what best friends are for?" She winked and gave me that warm smile again. It was all at once mischievous, dark, and yet left me feeling like the only person in the world that mattered. I think this was when I started to realize our friendship might be something more. It was the first slight hint, anyways. "Are you stalking me? Should I be concerned?" I said, half laughing. She gave this goofy face and laughed. "Totally. I want a piece of that pale ass. It's been a ruse, our friendship." I remember laughing. "What are you really here for?" She smiled again. "I wanted you to come sneak off with me. I've got a surprise for you." I started to hesitate, but she cut me off. "No worries, you're dressed fine." She winked at me again. We headed off together. I was curious where we were going, but she wouldn't say. Eventually we wound up in the woods at an old shack. She had me sit on a log, and she sat next to me, laughing. "Look up, Alice." I did, and was shocked to see how amazing the night sky looked. The moon was there and the stars were perfect. She pulled out some alcohol and we started drinking. I didn't remember much, but after I woke up, I was home, in bed again. There was a note next to me. It read, "To Alice, thanks for last night. It was fun. I know it was a bit of a surprise and probably not something you expected or will remember after all the drinking. Just know the best adventures in life are the unexpected ones. I'm glad you had fun and thank you for coming to my hideout. No one knows about that place, so that's our secret. I hope you had fun. You certainly seem to. Love, your partner in crime." I wasn't sure what had happened, but I remember smiling and keeping the note. The next few months were wonderful. Veronica and I would hang out together. We'd always sneak off to her place. We'd talk about school, the day, all sorts of things. I told her about you. "So, this is your place? We must be getting serious." Veronica laughed at me. "Totally. My one and only." She said this teasingly, but I felt my face turning red. So where are your parents?" Veronica smiled. "They're working. You'll meet them one of these days. They are quite busy." "Yeah, I know the feeling. My parents are always busy." "Really? What do they do?" Veronica asked, quite curiously. "My dad is a preacher, my mom a preacher's wife. They spend a lot of time at the church." This seemed to pique Veronica's interest. "Have you told them about me?" I thought I knew what she was talking about by the way she phrased it. It made me wonder. "No. They'd be happy to know I have a best friend, I'm sure, but they'd probably want to interrogate you or bore you with talk about their Lord and Savior. That's all I need, my best friend being run off by my crazy family." We both laughed. "Yeah, well, hopefully I'll get a chance to meet them someday. Do you get along with your folks?" "Yes, I love them. We just don't agree on the religion thing." The rest of that evening went great, but I left before her parents got home. I came home to Dad waiting. He seemed perplexed.
"Hey, honey, where have you been?"
"I was hanging with a friend."
"A guy friend?"
I laughed. "No, Dad, I'm pretty sure she isn't a dude." Dad smiled at me before reminding me to be safe and keep him aware of where I'm at so he doesn't have to worry. I was going to head upstairs when he asked me something.
"When do we get to meet this friend? What's her name?"
I couldn't help but smile, but had to calm myself before looking at Dad. I'm sure you were the same way in regards to love, once. "Her name is Veronica, and you'll get to meet her one of these days." The rest of the night went by, as did the rest of the week. Saturday night, I heard the tapping at my window. I got up, and there was Veronica, devilish smile on her face. She motioned for me to come out. I, of course, complied. In the time I'd known her, I felt I was developing somewhat of a crush on her. I wouldn't tell her that, of course, at least not yet, for sure. I snuck out. We went to the old shack, sat on that log, drank a few beers, and talked. Things were a blur. I remember coming home that night and seeing Dad staring at me. He didn't look happy.
Where have you been, Alice?
Out. Out, Dad. Where have you been? My speech was slurred, and I think Dad already knew I was drunk.
Get upstairs. Right now, Alice.
I just laughed, too drunk to argue, and went upstairs. I woke up the next morning, my head throbbing. It was at this point I realized I wasn't in the clothes I left in. I couldn't find them either. I didn't much care, but as I got up, I felt something in the pocket of the hoodie I was wearing. It was another note. Alice, last night was fun. You really know how to have a good time. I was worried you'd be hesitant at first, but I'm glad you weren't. Thank you for being honest. Love, the devil on your shoulder. My face was red. What did we do? Did I tell her about my crush on her? I felt panic, but then I heard the sound of knocking on my door. Opening the door, I found, to no surprise, Dad.
You ready for church?
Church? I'm not going. We've discussed this about 1 billion times before.
You're going today.
No, I'm fucking not! I slammed the door in his face. I know it was dramatic at the time, but I wasn't about to be forced into going to church. I told you guys that. I don't know how many times before. I remember him shouting at me through the door.
Fine. You can forget seeing your friend again.
I don't remember much other than opening the door. Next thing I knew, I was awake, in bed. You, Dad, and the family doctor staring at me. There were the usual questions. Are you okay? How much have you had to eat lately? How much did you drink last night? In the end, it was determined I just needed to take it easy. I was stressed, and the overwhelming nature of the stress led me to blacking out and fainting. I was given a note and had to take the next couple of weeks off school. I remember thinking about Veronica, if she'd miss me, what had happened. Then one night, I heard the tapping again. Hey, where have you been? Shh. If my parents see you, they are going to kill me. I'm coming down. I snuck out, and to my surprise, you both were sound asleep. Hey, I'm sorry. My parents caught me the last time I snuck out. Long story short, I got in trouble, blacked out at one point, and I'm guessing I hit my dad. I've got a note that says I have to take it easy. I'm overstressed. I looked away in shame, but she gently turned my head to face her and smiled. That warm smile. It's okay. Are you okay? I thought maybe you'd hated me after the other night. I laughed. I don't remember the other night. Should I hate you? I got your note. I was worried you might hate me. Never, Alice. I actually wanted to see if you were up for sneaking out again. I wanted to object, but her grin was not something I was going to say no to. Of course, but we have to be more careful. Veronica just grinned. That night was wonderful. We drank, talked, and then she said something to me. I want you to meet my parents. Tomorrow. I felt myself turning red. Okay. I remember shifting a bit before she moved in and kissed me. I was in shock, and at the same time, I had never felt so alive. Veronica smiled and told me good night. I snuck home, and that was that. I slept well that night, despite the dreams I was having. I saw the old shack. I saw bags. I think one of them was breathing. Veronica was smiling at me from the corner of the room. I woke up. It was after Dad left that Veronica showed up and brought me to her folks' place. They were sweet, though they acted shocked by the fact that I was there. They wouldn't stop asking who I was, what I was doing in their house. Things ended more amicably, though. I got them to calm down, and Veronica helped. We explained everything to them. They complied with everything we asked. They told us they believed us, but they were a bit dramatic in their expressions. I told them I loved their daughter. They gave me their blessing to be with her. They looked odd, though. They kept shaking their heads up and down in agreement, but their eyes had the look of shock. I guess I couldn't blame them. I mean, I don't think they were aware their daughter was into girls. They were very accepting, though. Well, what I remember of it. I think at one point Veronica said she wanted to talk to them, alone, and told me thank you for doing this with her. Shortly after that, we did some painting for her parents, and I remember getting red paint all over me. That's what Veronica tells me anyways. Apparently we did some drinking. I'm a little fuzzy on it, I'll admit. After that, I came home, and to my relief, Dad wasn't there. Nor were you yet. The news was on. They kept going on about the disappearances around town. People had been going missing. No clues, just missing. I turned off the TV and got in the shower. I threw out my clothes and went about my day. That night I had the strangest dream. I saw Veronica burying 2 people near the old shack. Upon waking up, though, I was finally ready to go back to school. I was excited. The day went normally enough. At lunch, Veronica came up to me. She had that warm smile, as always. "Hey, I want to meet your parents. Do you think that'd be all right?" I panicked at first, but she kissed me and I forgot everything for a moment. "Yeah, how about dinner time? Is it cool with your parents?" She grinned. "I'll see you then." I bet you remember how that went. Dad was the only one here. I told him I wanted him to meet Veronica. I told him she was my girlfriend. He looked shocked, but Veronica promised she'd handle it. "Give me a moment alone," she said with that smile. Next thing I know, you come in freaking out. You were going to hurt me. That's what Veronica said. So I took that knife out of Dad and buried it in your chest. I couldn't stop, you know. Veronica was right there next to me promising it would all be okay. I'm guessing she killed Dad. I don't remember for sure because he was naked and we were covered in blood. I knew, though, that I loved her, and I was going to kill you. You were going to call the cops on her. On me. That's what Veronica said you'd do, and I loved her! You understand, right, Mom? Dr. Alana's notes. The patient Alice continues to believe I'm her dead mother. She makes references to this Veronica. There's no record of Veronica at Alice's high school, and there have been several cases where people noticed Alice talking to herself at school. Update. Several bodies were found near an old shack in the woods, buried. It appears to match those missing around town. It's believed that Alice committed these murders. Another thing to note is, Alice and Veronica's connection, as of late, is waning. Alice seems to be losing touch with Veronica. She's complained she's not around anymore. Some nights, she is heard crying. She still believes she is talking to her dead mother every time we have a session. I'd like to believe it is likely that Veronica is either another personality or imagined completely. However, another patient by the name of Beth was admitted a while back for carving her face up with glass from a mirror she broke. She claimed a girl told her to do it, a girl matching Veronica's description. You wouldn't believe it, Doctor. The girl said the meanest things, but she had the warmest smile.